Roman Martin is an entrepreneur. He is an author of the book, and the book is, by the way, 700 pages that talks about attention. And in fact, he has come up with a theory of attention. And he's a polymath, which means that he has a very diverse background. So from neuroscience to philosophy to art to now writing and public speaking. Very warm welcome, Roman. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you. Pleasure, Anastasia, to be here.
Thank you. So, Roman, my first question is about your new book. So the book was published in May, this year, Attention Reframed. And it's a very big book. You have shown me before. Yeah, maybe you want to show it to our viewers. It's a beautiful and very thick book, and it may scare some people.
The option that you have is the 500 pages. It's a smaller letter, but then in the second edition, the editor told me make the letter bigger, and then 700 pages. But the way you save to read 500 reference, that is other books, essay, and scientific studies on relationships. So if you think about it, if you read this book, you don't need to read all those 500. So you're actually saving time.
Okay, we will try to sell this idea now in the next 30 minutes of people trying to find, very busy people trying to find time to read 500 pages. So Roman, why?
Sorry, one thing, just for the general public, and when I have friends that read it, I say, okay, just read chapter 1, 7, and 8, only those 3 chapters, it's 100 pages, you will be 10 times more knowledgeable about how relationships work. And then the other thing is to dig deep. It's for therapists, it's for consultants, coaches, for neuroscientists. So they're different fields, you can get deeper into it. So that my idea is that I have write a book that 30, 40, 50 years from now is still being a reference on relationships. That's my aim.
Relationships and attention, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's about how actually attention plays a role in relationships. So why do you think attention is important? Before this conversation, when we had an offline preparation for it, we did mention the 3 top pillars of attention.
Yeah, so the thing is that for me, relationships and human nature has been always a big question for me. Why do we behave the way we do, and all our reactions into different stimulus we get over our lives? And the main one, I think, is relationships, and relationships not only with others, but with ourselves, but mainly with others. And then I start to wonder about and start to study, and all of a sudden I realize that behind any relationship has to be attention. Actually getting very objective, these not relationships, and it's very difficult that relationships are in the same level. It is that I provide a level of and quality of attention to you, and you provide a quality and quantity of attention to me. And we call that relationship. But if you look at in a quantitative, observable way, I can measure how much quantity of attention you give me and how much quantity of attention I give you. And that's why I started to develop the theory that attention is a biological tool that men have developed over time, over our evolution, and has allowed us to cooperate in a very special way that no other species in the world does. So it is crucial for our procreation, survival, and happiness. And this is what really I like people to focus on. Attention is the tool, is the building block of any relationship. If you don't pay attention to me, there's no relationship that can be developed. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so I work on so this is the basis, and from there I develop the 700 pages, which go deeper. It's a big wonder.
So humans have developed this ability, yeah, to build, to give attention to each other as one of the main survival tools, essentially. That helps us collaborate with each other, that helps us understand what we need. So what are these three components of them? You spoke about time, yeah, you spoke about trust and energy.
And energy, yeah. So the thing is that what happens is that then when you start to decompose, you know, what is attention, you find out, okay, but what happens in our brain exactly, you know, and what happens and how can we measure how much attention and the quality of attention I'm giving to you. And first of all, it's a variable of time, you know, how much time I am providing to you, Anastasia, right now, you know, but I also say it's not only the time that I am with you interacting, it is the time I'm thinking about my future interaction with you or my past interaction with you. So my attention to you has to do a lot with time and my thought process on time. Second part is energy. And energy not in a voodoo way, you know, but very scientific way, you know, how much, so the brain consumes, you know, glucose that actually, you know, transformed in something called ATP. And the idea is how much glucose or ATP does our brain consume when I'm thinking of you or when I am interacting with you. And this is fascinating because one of the things I have discovered in the book and I put is that the more energy I consume being with you, the more tired I get, then that is gonna, you know, develop how much quantity of attention I want to give you. So the thing is that instead, think about it. If you are with a good friend or with someone you really feel comfortable, you don't inhibit whatever you're going to say, whatever you're going to act or behave. You can be yourself, you know. But instead, when you are careful, like I am right now, I am inhibiting I'm doing well, I'm not doing well, you know, my frontal brain, prefrontal cortex is inhibiting a lot of my natural way of being. So what happens is that this consumes a lot of glucose, a lot of ATP. So the quality of attention and how well I feel about the attention towards someone and that other person giving to me back, I will consume more or less energy. And then the third component is trust, which actually is kind of a mix of the previous two, because trust is a very complex, which I studied. I think it took me 1 year, right, to write the chapter. So it was 7 years, right, to write that. I'm not that smart. It's 100 pages per year. So the thing is that the variable of trust, and which is a full chapter, it's very complex because we are used to think about trust in performance. And if you think about it, you know, let's go 100,000 years ago, how good were you with me hunting that deer, or how good were you protecting, you know, the tribe, you know, on performance, which we keep thinking about performance and trust on that. But then the second part is trust in, so I put it like this, you know, in an X and Y graph, it's trust in the person. And trust in the person has to do with, you're not going to stab me in the back. Are you going to be good with me? Can I be vulnerable? And so on. So there are different variables on each one of them. So the more trust I have on you in the performance of the person, the less energy I will need to consume. So once again, you know, trust has to do with how high in the ladder of attention I am with you.
This is really fascinating. Thank you for sharing, Roman. And I will make sure that I'm not over-exercising your ATPs for too long. That
I'm quite relaxed. So
good. No, I know. I really appreciate you having this conversation with us. I would love to look together with you a little bit how these three variables, so time, energy, and trust, are changing as a result of the digital space. Now, we'll just give one example. So from the research that I have read, for example, when we speak about time, we have fast neural processes and slow neural processes. So such higher human emotions as, for example, love or empathy or the feeling of maybe shame are actually related to slower processing. What that means is that in order to really feel these feelings, we need a bit of time and space to reflect upon them. Now, what happens with the digital world is that we often don't have this time or space. We're just rushing through the things. We don't live according to our own human rhythms. And by the way, this is research about the slow neural processor that was done by Antonio Damasio, for those who want to read about it. So that's all science-based. And then when you look at what happens online, right, we actually skip through these processes, and we often just allow, our kind of primary emotions drive us, like a fear, for instance. And then we wonder why, the social media stimulates so much negativity. Well, it's because we actually don't even take time to think about and to process our higher emotions. So that's just one example of how digital technology might be changing our relationships with attention via changing our perception of time. Perhaps you could give some more, either in the realm of time or energy or trust.
So yeah. Actually, it's fascinating, this topic, because there are so many, consequences we are seeing now on the digital world on relationships and on attention. Starting with, our attention span. She has a study that is shorter. So if you think about it, I need this much attention span to give you proper attention to develop a relationship, and it's in chunks. Okay, it doesn't work. I cannot pay full attention all the time. 30, 40 minutes. I cannot be 33 hours or 20 hours, on that. So I have my attention spans, and then I need the distraction and then come back. So the thing is that break of a span of attention has made it shorter now. So in this shorter time, I cannot process all the information and all the cues that I need in order to trust you more. So what happens actually, and this is very interesting, is that this Dunbar say that we human species, Homo sapiens, have been able to, our brains, by the way, our brains are developed to procreate, survive, and develop happy chemicals. And one of the things we survive and procreate is having social relationships. And Robin Dunbar, the anthropologist and neuroscientist that developed this, the Dunbar number, many people know, he says that we are capped to 150 people that we can manage, right? But now different studies are saying that the medium or average people that we are handling online and dealing with, it's 400 to 700 people average. That depends on each person. Okay, so if you think about it, you have less span of attention and less time to divide your quality of attention and quantity of attention among 400, 600 people. Maybe it's too much. It is like it is a a bite to too much bite to chew, something like that. It's in English, So we need
too much to bite off, or just too much choice.
So yeah. So the thing is that we have too many people that we have to handle. If you think about it, you got your WhatsApp groups and different WhatsApp groups, and we are rambling between one WhatsApp group and another information. So the thing is that we that's WhatsApp, then you got your Instagram, then you got your LinkedIn, then you got your TikTok. All those things are spreading your capability of attention, because that's you have a limited capability of attention. So what happens is that it also goes the other way around. So think about this. I'm giving you attention, and one of the things I say in the book that attention is as necessary as is food, as is shelter, as is water. So we all need a quantity of attention from others so that we feel satiated. But if I'm not getting that attention, I just feel like, hey, I'm not satiated, I need more. And this actually does, it has been proven in the brain that, people do not sometimes get enough satiation on their social interactions. So if I don't get satiated, it is because I'm not getting enough attention. And this happens because, all this attention I have to give to so many people, I can only give a little bit to each one of them. So usually people are not getting enough satiation as well on feeling satisfied on those relationships. So this is one of the things that we have to think of: time, trust, and energy that are changing. Digital world is changing how we can handle our relationships.
Thank you. What are these mechanisms, like the neurochemicals, that actually are involved into ourselves feeling fulfilled with our attention? How can I go take a blood test and know if I'm like 80% attention fulfilled or saturated, or 90%, or is that even trackable, traceable?
That's a great question. That would be some things I I would love to do research and more research over time, because obviously we are in a crisis of loneliness. People are feeling more lonely than ever. So I guess that we are seeing the symptoms. That people are not getting enough attention because they feel more lonely, and this is direct relation. What I'm saying. But one thing of the book I mentioned in the book, which this is a fascinating topic of any research. Once you get in depth, you start to discover many things. One of the things I say is that, okay, so we need attention since the day we're born. Otherwise we cannot survive. And any child is proven that when it's not getting enough attention, they are not going to develop well some brain areas, even they have some their cells even grow older faster if they don't get proper attention in childhood. So one of the things that we see also is that we need attention for, I say, for three things. We need attention for survival, which is obvious. We need attention for procreation. Unless I get the other partner attention, I'm not going to get it. And then we develop a kind of a whole set of neurochemicals in order to process 1 and 2. So we get the dopamine for survival, and for procreation we get the oxytocin for the other two. So I call this we want attention, and we crave for attention because of these happy chemicals. So I started to study these happy chemicals, and I find out that it's not only that we need dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin. We need also endorphins, we need GABA, we need testosterone, we need adrenaline, and we need cortisol. So these a total of 8 neurochemicals that need to be balanced. That's one of the things I say in the book. Many people say, oh yes, get a lot of oxytocin, it's really good. And I say, wait. If you have too much oxytocin in your system, you're going to become selfish. And that has been proven. Yeah. So you are going to become more selfish, because the oxytocin is about the us. I am with my group and you are with them. So many people, yeah, exactly. It's not a straightforward answer on how much neurochemical you need. So it's a balance. Many people say, oh, cortisol and it's a really bad guy. And they say, wait. You need cortisol in order to have this spike in the morning, in order to feel that feeling of rush and wanting to do actions. Now, if you overdo it, is when you get overstressed, So the neurochemicals are opening and closing different brain parts, and there are different brain parts in our brain that are going to help us to interact with others, to give them proper attention. For example, you were talking about empathy. Empathy, it's basically located in the anterior cingulate cortex, which is a part of the cortex, but touching the limbic system. So we have find out that if that doesn't work out well, it is very difficult for you to have the feeling of what the other person is feeling. So it does become, and that doesn't mean that you are going to act with empathy, because if what comes overwhelms you, the prefrontal cortex gets overheated, and you don't act. And you can think about it. If you are a very empathic person and you see a lot of misery around you, instead of acting, many people gets overwhelmed and they cannot react towards that, and they just have to leave. They don't want to see it because their brain cannot handle it. So relationships are very complex, and this is one of the things I try to say in the book. They are complex. The more you understand each one of these steps in the way, the better it's going to be with you. And by the way, less guilty you're going to feel about yourself, because we are complex beings.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to add a couple of thoughts about the balance of these neurochemicals. So very often what we do online, for instance, in terms of task switching, actually tends to raise our cortisol or adrenaline levels. But these are not really welcome spikes. Yeah, the welcome spike is in the morning when you wake up. If you reach out to your phone afterwards and you're seeing, okay, what's needed of me in terms of email from work, or, what else, what other disasters happening in the world, that is, then you're basically over-inducing, over-promoting your cortisol levels. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So that's not a healthy thing to do. So that's
and you don't want to do that at night when your cortisol levels have to go down and you need to go to sleep. So don't watch news. I don't watch the news for years now, but another thing is that on dopamine, if you get an overdose of dopamine, of getting a lot of dopamine in the morning, well, any moment, the thing is that it will drain you after, because you have, overuse your dopamine levels, and then you will feel a drowning effect afterwards. So what I say is that once you understand these neurochemicals, try to balance them. Try to use, you have to use GABA a little bit, which is the idea of calming down and being in a relaxed environment. You cannot be partying all the time. You need to also, so if you think about it, it's like, I always think, how would a tribe of men would have been 100,000 years from now, ago? That if
men and women.
Men and women, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So humans, humans in general. So the thing is that if you go down 60,000 years, 100,000 years, 200,000 years, the thing is that our brain has not changed since then. It is the same. So the only thing that has changed is our software, our belief systems, our context, which does have an effect on how we're going to react. So if you think about it, those people 100,000 years ago, they were 150 people within a tribe, and those tribes were in clans of 50 people, and most of them were family, and they would relate with others, okay? But the thing is that most of the time there would be 50 people that would see each other every day and see, the clan of the tribe of 150 once a week. So the thing is that you need to think about that regularity, that person that you can see in a regular basis, if you can almost daily, so that actually you feel more calm and you are going to develop more GABA. You will not need to use so much inhibition in your prefrontal cortex when you are dealing with that person. So those are things to think about it. It's not, I don't have all the answers. Everybody has to look for them. But it is something that I provide the tools, to find solutions.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you about the practical implications, but before that, just for my personal interest, I would love to know a bit more your view on mirror neurons and the brain waves and attention, because I think you have quite a unique viewpoint on that.
Well, the mirror neurons, even though they are very popular and they have become very popular, they are in the prefrontal cortex, but they are in the premotor part of the prefrontal cortex. So those neurons, what they have found out is that they anticipate a movement. So it is like, oh, I see another person that they touch him in the arm, and then I feel like that it's touching the arm. It doesn't go that way exactly. What it does is when the other person gets stabbed or get in the arm, and you have the feeling in the anterior cingulate cortex, that sends an order to the prefrontal cortex, and that mirror neuron says, oh yes, I can do that. You know, that could happen to me, or what will happen if that that would occur, which happens a little bit in another circuit called theory of mind. So we believe and think about how I would feel in the other person, and then I do have it. But the feeling of me being hurt, it's in the anterior cingulate cortex, not in the neuron, because the neuron can, the mirror neuron can be, you know, shut down, and I would still have the feeling. So those are, and the brain waves, that's another whole package I put on there, which is we have found out that there are, you know, blocks of neurons that they communicate by waves, not by neurochemicals. And so they plug in different vibrations. And it's quite interesting, you know, how well, you can see it when you go to sleep, when you wake up, and in stressful situations. So when you are around with other people, also, what brain waves are you developing? There's more research to be done on this, because we don't have yet all the answers. The brain is a very complex puzzle. We're still trying to find out how it works.
Thank you. I would love to bring our conversation to the realm of current workplace and the changes that are happening there. So we did say, and you articulated several times, that essentially attention is not just a nice thing to have. Yeah, this is a prerequisite. And if we talk, for example, about well-being, workplace well-being, attention is part of that. And it's interesting because that's also what we speak about at Consciously Digital. When we speak about the pillars of digital well-being, we say that the ability to stay focused, whether you're at the meeting, no phone meetings, for example, you're focused at what other people are saying, or you're focused at your work, is actually a well-being prerequisite. Yeah, if you can't do that, if other people around you don't do that, then this disrupts your well-being. But unfortunately, yeah, most of us are working in the environment that is fast-paced, where we encourage to do several things simultaneously, where way many more people than I would like to know participate at the same time in 2 calls simultaneously, or they pretend to be doing that. Probably some people who are listening now to this LinkedIn Live are also on their emails. And it's kind of like we are basically being encouraged all the time to take our attention away from one activity and to try to split it. And as we said, the consequences can be very dramatic, also in terms of trust within the organization, especially if the organization is moving or has moved to hybrid or remote work. When you don't have this water cooler conversations or coffee machine conversations, do you have any tips, Roman, for organizations that want to build trust, but perhaps whose employees are largely now working remotely, hybrid work? And yes, they do have meetings, but you know, the meetings are, we've switched off screens. Maybe they just use the messengers. What works, what doesn't work?
So it is very interesting, because I'm an entrepreneur as well, and I have my company, which is a software and specialized on email and cybersecurity for 26 years. So I can talk about my experience that can help also for people to understand how I do it and how I think about it. First of all, is that we were in the center of the city for many years, in the main street for business in Barcelona. And then I had people working in, we had offices in Argentina, in Colombia, and Mexico. And I had offices there, and people start to ask me, I want to work from home. Why do I have to go to the office to check in when I have to cross all the city? And I sit in front of a desk and I say, well, okay, work from home. And then after a year or so, then we say, why are we working in the middle of the city when these people coming from other parts of outside Barcelona and have to commute here? You know what? Everybody go work from home. And that happened just 1 year before the pandemic, the COVID lockdown. So we were, I guess, lucky, to be prepared for that. So my first and hardest part was how to handle the management component of the company, because managers are used to the serotonin that comes within the job, and seeing their rule and command every day. They go to the office, say, hey, you do that, what are you doing, come to my desk and explain me. That gives them serotonin. I'm in this status, and I'm high in the status. I'm getting that recognition. So I was the first. I went through that. I was the first one guilty. Hey, there's something here. And then I had to learn, on how to lower that. And actually, it was very interesting for me, Anastasia. It made me more human. It made me closer. It made me rethink my role as a leader and as a manager. And then, I started to talk more one-to-one to people. And one thing I did also is then working on this trust part of the book. I say, okay, you have to, trust on the performance. That I'm still very demanding on the performance to my people. Okay, if you want to, have my trust as a boss, you have to perform. That I demand that. But at the same, because the company has to, make some goals and invoices and so on. Has to survive. The second part is the trust in the person, and that trust in the person I saw, and I talk in my book, is that you cannot build it artificially, I would say. This thing of, oh, let's get together and have this coffee online and things of that sort. I didn't feel engaged. I saw it in other places. That feeling, which, by the way, that feeling is talking about what is happening with your brain chemicals. So you're finding there's no oxytocin here being created. There's no kind of us being created. So my first advice would be, you have to develop a culture where there is a creation of an us, oxytocin, and that's not easy. But you have to develop, a way that people feels into that they are working together. And that's when you become more a leader as well, because you are providing a vision and people gets together as an us to work towards a vision. That's
why is it, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here for a moment. Why is it then this kind of online coffee chats or online drinks where everyone was pulled into during the pandemic, why they don't work, why they don't create oxytocin?
Well, first of all, it has been studied that oxytocin is most created precisely as I was calling about attention and how it's unique to humans. When, for example, when we see each other on the eyes, when we look and look in the eyes, it's very difficult for me to follow up if you're looking at me, the screen, or what, or am I looking at the camera? Am I looking at you? It is not that that easy. There's some studies that they say, no, people who has more oxytocin receptors, they can do better online and things like that, but that's not the majority of people, and this is, it is an insufficient study. When we get oxytocin is when we hug, when we touch, which, by the way, we get endorphins as well, when we laugh together, this creates the endorphins and the oxytocin that you need. It's very difficult to create that environment into a context online. So it is, for example, I remember I work in the USA for a while. I study over there, some of my careers. And I remember I worked for a multinational, and then they had, sometimes, these meetings and all that, and it was a little bit, cold and things like that. But then they had the Friday margaritas, and Friday, in the afternoon, all that they started, and people had a little bit of alcohol, which, by the way, develops endorphins. People start to get nicer, and people start to laugh and things like that. And that created the environment that was needed. It is very difficult to create that same environment online. Okay, so my advice on that, if you are 100, so we're 100% company online, and so we had already developed a culture, but one of the things I would advise, or tip of advice, is that, and I did, and I keep doing, is that I walk my dog every day a couple of times, in the middle of the day, and especially at night, at 7:30 to 8:30, something like that, an hour. And what I do many times, I just get my phone, and it's a time for me to walk and make phone calls. I call my friends, I call family, and I call co-workers. And I call them many times just to know how they are, how are things, how is family, how, these people that has gone through a divorce, and these people, they just want to, know that I care. And I do generally want to know how they are. I just have, I've been developing, a good relationship with many of them, that some of them has been over 16 and 20 years on the company. So the thing is that caring personally on those people you have just underneath, under you. But personally means that calling after hours and knowing, I don't talk about business at that moment. I talk about personal stuff. So that's probably my advice and tip I can share on that.
So deeper connection, more personal, more one-on-one, doesn't matter whether it's online, via the phone, but it's again gets down to, can we take really time to be with the person, to be there for the person? Yeah, and this is what ultimately is going to build trust within your team, within your organization, with your partner, with your friends, children, wherever you're working with.
Well, caring about them and being there and paying attention when they want, and knowing that you are available for them in the personal level. That's what people also want, that recognition, and not only in the professional but in the personal level as well.
Absolutely. So just we will need to be wrapping up and letting you walk your dog and do your nightly connecting calls. I just want to give a chance, if people have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat if you currently have them. And if we don't manage to answer them now, then you can also reach out to me or to Roman via LinkedIn. While people are writing questions, and they may come a little bit late, so I may not able to see them. Roman, where can they find your book, the 500 pages version or 700 pages version?
So they are in Amazon. They're available online. Then I have I have some free resources in romanmartin.info. I even have developed one of the chapters called the Friendship Manifesto that I give for free, because I want people to know a little bit also better on developing friendship and what it takes. The friendshipmanifesto.com, that also goes to my website, and from there you can get some free resources and some more information, and there's a newsletter and so on, and more. I will be giving more. I've been writing already the second book, and there will be more things coming on this topic.
Excellent. I super am looking forward to it, and I commit to reading your book this year. I'm definitely.
Remember, it started chapter 1, 7, and 8, and then after that you call me and I'll tell you the next chapters.
We were even laughing that we need to develop an AI assistant that to whom you tell, okay, like I'm interested in that subject, and it tells you where to go in Roman's book and what to read.
That would be nice.
So just an invitation to everyone to join my Attention Detox Challenge. So what we're going to do, we're going in the beginning of December, it's from the 4th to the 8th of December. We are doing a 5-day attention detox challenge. What that is we're going to look at your attentional patterns, where you're losing your attention, where, what kind of things you can throw away from your attention boat. How can you reset it so that you're not just more productive, focused, but you're also a happier human being, and that you're a healthier human being, because as we concluded today, it's one of the essential components actually of well-being and thriving for humans. So you can see a little bit more information about it at consciously-digital.com/5DC. So 5DC standing for 5-day challenge. And it's also in my LinkedIn profile. So I encourage you to do that. People, it's going to be the 3rd edition. People who have done it before said that this was quite a fantastic reset of their whole life. So do join. Roman, thank you so much again for joining. When I was posting about this event online, I said we will do our best to squeeze in 12 hours of a conversation into 30 minutes. Well, 30 minutes we didn't do, we did 40. But even with that, I think we did fantastic. And I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to reading the book.
Thank you, Anastasia. A pleasure. And thank you for your attention, and everyone else that was watching. And remember, that the attention that you give others, it's a nutritional, giving a nutritional well-being to the other. So please give proper attention to everyone you cross your life with.
Including yourself. Give some attentional nutrition for yourself tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.